2 points of success that I want to talk about. One is having an efficient lift off the floor. That means getting your hips down, standing the stone up, getting it up into your lap, and starting to carry. The second thing to look for is breathing. You've got to be able to breathe to supply oxygen to the lungs and to the body so that you can continue the carry.
When this test was first administered, men would carry it around a sheep pen that measured about 101 feet around. We don't have a sheep pen here, obviously, so we will use the stage, and this is the order of the competitors. We go from last to first in the prior event. JF Caron was the only man who did not have a successful lift. He bowed out of the deadlift without lifting any weight. He will start. He will be followed by Alexei Novikov, and then we will end with Hafthor Bjornsson, who finished first in the prior event, but Alexei Novikov will actually be up first.
So this is a natural stone. Natural stones aren't made to be lifted. In other words, they're going to have to read the stone and lift it. Most men that do the HUSAFELL stone carry want to stand the stone up and then swing it up onto their lap and then start to walk. Some might actually just want to reach down and pick it up. So they are allowed some time to look at the stone. This is called reading the stone. The stone knows more about, a natural stone knows more about how to lift itself than we do. So you have to be able to listen to it. In other words, feel the balance in your hands. Is there an area that feels like there's a little more purchase on it with your fingers?
You've seen the actual HUSAFELL stone. You've written books on this stuff.
I've carried the actual HUSAFELL stone.
This one you said is pretty close.
This is very close. They actually took 3D pictures and Rogue made a HUSAFELL stone. But importantly, this was a stone that was brought from Iceland and then constructed into the actual replica of the HUSAFELL stone.
They have to go around all of those stones. JF Caron, we showed you him as the man who was going to lead this thing off, because Alexei Novikov is the man to start, but Caron has withdrawn from the competition. So he's done after one event. Novikov has that stone up, and now his attempt will begin.
You want to keep moving your feet, moving your feet. As you move your feet, that's distance. And you only have so much time to carry the stone. It looks like he's rhythmically breathing. You can see in and out, in and out. He's digging his fingers into the stone, slowing down just a little bit.
Impressive so far from the youngster. His attempt ends once he drops it.
He's got 2 complete laps. The stone goes down, they'll mark that.
Impressive effort from Alexei Novikov, making his first appearance in the Arnold Strongman Classic. He was your amateur champion in 2018, and you talk about breathing, quick feet. He did both of those very well on this attempt.
Yes, he did. So look at his face. In, out, taking deep breaths. In other words, he's in a rhythmic pattern of breathing. Make sure he fills his lungs with oxygen. And that's very important too with this. Look, the stone is on his chest, and it's hard to do that. Some men will actually turn the stone instead of straight up. They'll actually.
That's an indication of how heavy this thing is. For, and I'd say rather large men, having to harness that thing up and drag it back to the start.
This is an epic event. It's over 400 pounds. Just the lift itself of this stone is a fantastic lift.
And I'm sure these guys appreciate Novikov dropping it so close to the start. They only had to drag it about 10 feet back.
Yes, I think someone's going to probably drop it on the other side at some point.
We are waiting for the official distance on Novikov's attempt.
It's shocking how close that is to the actual HUSAFELL stone. Some men will actually try to turn the stone 90 degrees and lift it a little more widely. And that puts the stone further down and off your chest so that you can breathe. But most actually stand it up because you can get your arms around just a little bit more easily with that taller stance. Magnus for Magnuson, legendary strongman here, the head judge.
Mateusz Kaliszkowski, he's on the right of your screen in that black robe shirt. The youngster out of Poland. His worst event is now behind him, and we know what this kid can do with stones.
Yes. Polish athletes are traditionally great with these strength endurance events. Mariusz Pucanowski, I've seen him compete. Also Sebastian Winta, another great strongman from Poland, and they were both very, very good with strength endurance events.
Still waiting on the official distance from Alexei Novikov. Kaliszkowski has 60 seconds to get that thing lifted.
Very efficient lift, as we said, but very high. It's up on his chest.
So Novikov's distance was 211 feet 6 inches as Kaliszkowski gets to work.
Constantly going around and around, that's much harder than straight ahead. When they used it in the World's Strongest Man competition in the early 90s in Iceland, that was a straight ahead take. This is much harder going around and around these turns.
And each lap is 101 feet. That is the same diameter of that original sheep pen that the HUSAFELL stone was carried. And now Kaliszkowski is struggling a bit. Remember, his attempt ends once he drops it. Now it's just trying to get as much distance as he can before that thing slips through his grip and the stone is down.
A little surprising. I thought he probably was going to go a little farther. So that really shows the terrific first attempt by Novikov.
And Kaliszkowski taking a second before he stood up and grabbed his groin muscles a little bit. And doesn't look like he's too happy with that attempt.
He gets a great pick on the stone. We call it a pick, but he does put the stone quite high on his chest. These are all things he's going to learn as he goes, as he gets further in his competitive life. He moves his feet quickly, which covers distance, but then that stone's high up on his chest. And it didn't look like he was doing that rhythmic breathing. So his muscles don't get the oxygen. He starts to get lightheaded. You lose your grip, and the whole thing falls apart quickly.
Kaliszkowski, 112 feet, 1 inch. Alexei Novikov, we are early. We're only through 2 athletes, but he has the top mark of 211 feet, 6 inches, and Maciej Belszak will be the third man to hoist the HUSAFELL stone.
Notice they allow them to have those little towels that have some pine pitch on them, but not tacky. They're not allowing them to tacky up. That would take away from the event. Traditionally, you don't want to use tacky. Terry Todd's vision for this event was to have historic events and do them in a historic way. Just as the natural stone lift that they'll do tomorrow night to the shoulder will not allow tacky to be directly applied, but just the towels that they provide, the officials provide to them.
Once again, he has 60 seconds to lift that thing. If he can't lift it, they don't get to actually make an attempt. So you have to get that stone up and lifted.
Now right now he's struggling because he's got his heels behind the stone. If he had his heels closer to the front of that tip of the stone, it would be a little easier.
And that was the first thing you talked about, efficient lifting. Belszak has it up. And will now start his journey around that 101-foot circuit.
So if we can see his face and see if he's actually, looks like he is, he's pushing air in and out of his lungs pretty well. There you go. See him, he's got that rhythmic breathing going. That rhythmic breathing's allowing oxygen to get into his muscles and keep him from getting lightheaded, because that stone's high up on his chest. He's doing a great job, though.
And Belszak now has the stone slipping down to his knees, and that'll do it.
When it starts to fall apart, that's it, because Your grip goes. That's another piece of this whole thing. You're digging your fingertips into the stone. It's smooth, and it wasn't made to be lifted. Barbells were made to be lifted. They've got knurling. They're balanced. Now, when you throw enough 45-pound plates on it, that really doesn't play out that well. So notice he has the stone right in front of his foot, and then he's able to swing the stone up when he swings it back a little bit. The weight of the stone is over 400 pounds. It's a 186 kilogram stone. Weighs 409 pounds, I believe. The HUSAFELL stone, that's roughly what the HUSAFELL stone weighs. He is breathing rhythmically, but watch, his grip starts to go. He replaces the stone higher up on his chest. But all that pressure on your chest, it's hard to take a deep breath. And your grip starts to go and you get lightheaded and the stone goes down. It happens pretty quickly when it does happen.
Belshock was 2 feet shy, less than 2 feet shy of Kalisz Koski. Belshock 110 feet 8 inches. Alexei Novikov, still your leader, 211 feet 6 inches. As now Ronald Heinle will step up to the HUSAFELL stone.
So that young man, Novikov, really put himself in a great position. He was starting the event, and it looked like, well, are we going to see a lot of guys do 2 to 2.5 to 3 laps?
And he was towards the bottom of the pack in that first event, and with just 5 events, you can't afford really to have one bad event, but he has got to start digging himself out of a hole if he wants to really move up the standings here. Now Ronald Heinle starts to read the stone.
He's looking at it. So if you misread the stone, what can happen is you not get the good purchase on the stone. You have an inefficient lift. He just overpowered the stone. Very strong deadlifter. Everybody's going with that style where the stone's really high up. He's locking his fingers into it. So having the stone more straight up and down will actually make it higher up on your chest. And you see he's got really doesn't have his fingers wrapped into the stone. It's more of his wrist. So having to keep his feet moving, he's breathing rhythmically. It appears that he did get past the other 2 athletes.
So Ronald Heinle looking to move into second place as Alexei Novikov still have the top mark after that attempt, but Heinle, like you said, just overpowered this thing and then was able to keep a pretty solid grip for most of his trip.
Yes, he really didn't read the stone that much. He just really reached down and picked it up because he's such a strong man. See, his fingers are really having difficulty. They're sliding backwards. He's trying to get some air into his lungs, but the stone's so high up. He starts to slow down. The grip starts to go.
And he almost did the crew a favor and put it right back in the starting square, so they'll only have to move that thing a couple of feet before the next athlete comes up.
Yes. Now imagine going to HUSAFELL where it's cold, it's outside, and that ground is broken up. It's up and down. It might be snowing, it might be raining. So these guys have a nice rubber mat and an indoor track to run on, so that does give some advantage.
And for people who don't know about this stone, in Iceland, the actual HUSAFELL stone it's akin to a national monument.
Yes, it is. There's actually a monument there now that has an explanation about the stone in Icelandic and in English, and it's illegal to deface or remove the stone from the site. So they know it's a national treasure. And the Icelanders are very proud. Talking to Anders Gudmundsson, to Peter Gudmundsson, also to Helti Arnason, they're very proud, and Magnus Magnusson, that this stone is here and this carry is being done in the strongman.
We're waiting on a score update from all the athletes as they make sure everything is being calculated correctly, and that's Martins Lisis. He's the 5th athlete to take on the HUSAFELL stone, and he is off to a very fast start.
Yes, they're all doing it the same way, straight up and down. Taking that taller purchase on the stone.
So Lisis with 1 lap down, that's 101 feet.
Good foot movement. Look at his mouth. He's moving air in and out of his lungs. I called that my self-esteem engine when I was carrying stones. breathing like a train.
And Lisi's, and that's been about the mark where most of the athletes have started to see their grip slip, other than Alexei Novikov.
Now notice, very good lift. So watch how he's pulling breath in, pushing breath out. He's not just passively breathing. He's forcing air into his lungs and out of his lungs, into his lungs and out of his lungs. Even though that stone's pressing against his chest. And then the stone starts to slide down. Notice his fingertips. And your whole being is just your fingertips in that stone and trying to go one more step and one more step.
Mikhail Shivlikov is up next, looking to move up the overall leaderboard.
That's just a little bit of pine tar on that towel. It's not pine tar directly applied. Really, it's more of a drying agent. It just gives that smooth stone a little bit of stick to the forearm and somewhat to the hands. I'll be interested to see how he picks this stone. Again, no one's actually turned it sideways, that 90-degree sideways where it's wider. And that keeps the stone further down on your chest, and it actually allows you to breathe instead of having the stone straight up and down.
Shivlikov is up next. We will have all the scores at the end of the event, as it is taking time for them to calculate everything exactly.
There he goes.
Every foot, every inch matters in this event.
He stands the stone up. Very efficient lift. Very nicely done. Locking the fingers. That's another approach.
And Shivlikov is off on his first lap, 101 feet every trip around this track.
Moving his feet quickly. Hopefully he can hang on to his fingers. He is breathing well. He's got one lap down. He's slowing.
And the grip goes right there. Shivlikov cannot catch the other men that we saw go before him.
It's just so tempting to want to pick that stone up and lock your fingers.
You would think that that would give him a better grip, but it seemed that his grip failed more quickly than the other athletes.
I would agree, Sean. Now watch, notice how he had it right between his feet, swung the stone back, and it shot right into his lap. Very efficient. Now he locks his fingers, and what that does, it puts the stone even higher up on his chest. You see his hands are starting to slip. He is breathing well, but his feet slow down. The stone's up on his chest. There you go. Now he doesn't have an option once his fingers slip apart. And your fingers will stick to the stone more effectively than they'll stick to each other, unless they're locked. But even that doesn't always play itself out.
Jerry Pritchett will be up next. Currently tied for third place overall with Shivlikov.
I really agree with having to start with the stone flat on the ground. For years they were doing stone carries and different implements where they would start off of a barrel so that the athlete didn't have to actually stand the stone up. Remember the Africa stone that was used in World's Strongest Man? He's going to have a good start to this stone. Right up.
6'4", 370, 37 years of age.
There goes Jerry Pritchett.
And look at the courage of Jerry Pritchett.
Doesn't look like he's breathing too rhythmically. His grip's already starting to slip. He's slowing down. He's swinging out so he can get around that corner. There's so many athletes right in that little pack. He just needs a few more feet to make a lap. I think
Pritchett
that was his goal.
Almost gets there.
That was his goal.
And he is upset at himself, and came up sort of favoring his right leg a little bit, not putting a whole lot of weight on that thing, and they were working on that leg after the deadlift.
What a warrior. But look, straight up and down, swings it back, gets a good lift, very efficient.
And when you have a banged up hamstring in this event, how does that affect you carrying that stone?
Well, it starts to tighten up, and then it starts to affect your lower back, and it wants to fall forward. See, he's falling forward because his hamstring's tight. Plus, it's a 400-pound slick slab of stone that he's trying to carry.
Not quite one total lap of 101 feet for Jerry Pritchett.
So I would raise
see him holding that right leg aloft and not putting a whole lot of pressure on it. And like Jerry Pritchett has broken the stage.
Okay.
These men make that HUSAFELL stone look light, but again, it is 400 plus pounds, and he dropped it sharp edge down, and you see the impact, and it definitely made quite the dent.
Yes. All that focused energy right in one spot. I'm sure they'll come up with a solution. The road crew's always very... They could step over it. They could just continue the event and say, this is just part of what's happening now, but also safety is also a concern. The surface where you carry it in Iceland is not actually a smooth surface either, a completely flat surface either.
We have just 2 athletes remaining as 7 have gone. The field is now down to 9 as J.F. Carone withdrew from the competition after what looked like a hamstring injury in the elephant bar deadlift. And this is where we stand coming into this event with Hafthor Bjornsson locking up those 10 points for the win in event number 1. Brian Shaw in second all by himself, and then Jerry Pritchett and Mikhail Shivlikov splitting the points for 3rd and 4th. They add those points together and they divide by 2. That's how they figure out the 7.5. And really, this is no surprise. I know we're through just one event. We're in event number 2, but no surprise that man Brian Shaw and Hafthor Bjornsson are on top of the overall leaderboard.
Yes, I would agree. And these are both giant athletes. So an event like this where they have longer arms, they can maybe let the stone ride a little bit lower. They have prolific back strength and leg strength to carry the stone. This is such a fantastic event for a strongman competition. What it is it's primal.
Brian Shaw, who has been at the Arnold Strongman Classic every year since 2010. He has finished first or second 7 of the last 8 years, and he has won this competition 3 times.
A great champion for sure. He also holds the world's record in the largest Atlas stone ever lifted, so he knows a little bit about stone lifting. But this is, again, a natural stone.
Shaw is one of those athletes who didn't start as a strongman. He actually was a basketball player. He attended Black Hills State University on a full basketball scholarship, and during his time there, he said he was hooked on the weights, and that path kind of led him to strongman. Said he has always possessed what he calls brute strength, and that will be on display in this event.
Yes, he's quite good with odd objects. He's just trying to mentally get a place where he can step around that and not actually step on that area of the stage where it's a little bit soft.
Here's the thing too, Brian Shaw was warmed up ready to go. Then we had a delay. How does that affect these athletes mentally?
It can affect them some. They put a piece of plywood under it to shore up that floor. But he's a professional. He'll just get himself ready and keep moving forward. It's really not something that's in his control to get upset about, so now we just focus on what he can actually do to do his best for this event. So going 2 full laps will put him in very good placing. It would make him the leader if he can get all the way around and come some distance down the straightaway here after 2 laps.
Alexei Novikov was the first man out, and so far, unofficially, he carried that thing the farthest. Brian Shaw, the key for him is not necessarily beating Novikov, it's beating the man who's going to come up next, and that's Hafthor Bjornsson.
Very nice pick, and he's actually tall enough to lock his fingers. Let's see if that strategy works. Now, if his fingers come apart, he still has his hands on the stone. He's moving his feet. He's breathing. Look, he's got good breathing pattern, rhythmically breathing, in and out, in and out. He's done a lot of carrying events.
Shaw looking like he's starting to slip a little bit. He'll get through one lap and then drop that 400-plus pound stone.
Well, now we understand why the HUSAFELL stone carry is such an epic test of strength. You carry that stone completely around the sheep's pen.
And lost in all this right now is the fact that Alexei Novikov, a rookie, so far has carried this thing the farthest. He was first out.
Yes. Very, very efficient lift for Brian. He locks his fingers, but locking his fingers like that, he does have the option if his fingers slip apart. They slip apart, he can still get his fingers on, the fingertips on the stone. He's looking for his placements. He starts to slide down. Fighting for every point.
Hafthor Bjornsson is the last man remaining. And all he does need to do in order to basically hang on to the overall lead is complete a lap.
Yes, and this is a strategy. Does he go for the event win and put a couple of points ahead, or does he conserve energy and just be one more point ahead of Brian? And that's his choice. He'll understand that when he picks it up, if it feels like it's going well, that he can carry it more than 2 laps.
Being that he's from Iceland, does that make this event mean more to him?
Certainly, and he's been to the HUSAFELL stone and carried it. So this is an event that he would be able to have some insight into. That's for sure. Here
are your official top 3. Alexei Novikov, the youngster from Ukraine, with a carry of 211 feet 6 inches. Rano Heinle is second, followed by Martins Lisis. Novikov, the worst he can do right now is second place, and that will help move him up the overall standings.
That's fantastic. So the reason they used that Snorri, the farmer, used this at the sheep pen that we always talk about is because he didn't have wood to make a gate for when he sheared his sheep. So he took this slab and put it up against the opening of the sheep's pen. And he started carrying it and lifting it up onto the stone wall, and that was called sturker. You were strong if you lift it. You were half sturker if you could actually lift it up onto the taller part of the wall. Full sturker, full strength, if you could pick it up and carry it completely around without putting it down.
Hafthor Bjornsson, the overall leader after the first event, the last man to carry this stone, and trying to beat the rookie's mark, Alexei Novikov, 211 feet 6 inches. Bjornsson mauling that stone to his chest, and he is off on his first lap.
Very quick foot movement, getting some rhythmic breathing going, coming to the first, very long strides.
1 lap down for Bjornsson, and looking like he's going to stay in the overall lead with 3 events remaining. Now can he track down the rookie Alexei Novikov?
Yes, he's vying for that first place finish. He's making a statement. Here he comes all the way around.
This one's going to be close as the stone is down for Hafthor Bjornsson, and one thing is for sure though, he will be your overall leader after 2 events.
Maintaining national pride. The first time I went to Iceland, a 60-year-old woman at the hotel that I was going to stay in asked me why I was there, and I told her the stone. She didn't ask what stone, and she gave me directions.
They know what the stone means over there.
The stone is the HUSAFELL stone, also known as Kria Headland, which means the pin slab in Icelandic.
And it looks like Hafthor Bjornsson may have edged out Alexei Novikov, but that is unofficial. If that is the case, Bjornsson will go 2 for 2, win both opening events, and have 20 total points heading into the second and final day.
Very effective pick, super efficient. He knows exactly where he needs to put his hands. So not only digging your fingertips in, you're locking it in with your chest. So what you want is a silent upper body and locking it in with your upper body and moving your legs quickly. keys to success, and that was it.
We are waiting on the final results of this event, but better news for Hafthor Bjornsson is that because of that performance, he has put some significant distance between himself and Brian Shaw on the overall leaderboard. We just don't know how much yet. But Bjornsson looking like he has gone 2 for 2 on day one and just edging out the rookie Alexei Novikov, but we are waiting on the official results as Hafthor Bjornsson, who won the Arnold Strongman Classic for the first time in 2018, making a statement on day one.
Very much so. If you can understand what this means, to pick up this stone and be able to carry it, and here he is, first competition, HUSAFELL stone. He's from the Ukraine. He's not from Iceland. But notice how he got his hands a little bit lower on the stone, and he breathed really rhythmically. He practiced this. He's moving his feet, because every footstep is distance.
Impressive from Alexei Novikov, who will take second place in this event, and even more impressive that the man he finished behind was Hafthor Bjornsson, the defending champion. Huge confidence boost for Alexei Novikov as we wrap up the first day of competition at the 2019 Arnold Strongman Classic. Just one of the many attractions here at the Greater Columbus Convention Center in Columbus, Ohio, as fans from around the globe gather here once a year and basically make this place the epicenter of fitness for a weekend. One more day of competition remains. There are 3 events that can certainly shake up this leaderboard. And I know we're all looking forward to seeing the opening event of day number 2. That will be the Wheel of Pain.
The most unbelievable and epic implement that's ever been made for strongman.